You know, I think that I've shared just about all that I can about the Crux, and somewhere over the last year, I've taken on the title of the Crux Guy, which is a title that I'll gladly wear, but I think this will be my last video about the Crux for a while. And I thought it'd be interesting to close it out with the top 5 questions that I get about this bike. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know this disclaimer, but for those of you who are just joining, I share my perspective as a pretty normal dude. I ride around 7,500 miles a year. I enter the occasional race, hold down a normal 9-to-5 job, and I don't get paid to ride a bike. And none of these videos are sponsored, so I can say whatever I want about whatever products I want to talk about. The first question that I often get asked is, should I get the S-Works, Pro, Expert, or Comp level Crux? And I think the answer is, it really depends on whatever makes sense for your budget. I would say that the value is probably found in the lower tier models, and then you kind of get marginal gains as you climb up the ladder. Personally, I tend to go with the S-Works frames. I find that they hold their value a little bit better on the resale side. There's something about that S-Works badging that seems to demand a little bit more of a price point. It's kind of like buying a 3 Series BMW. There are a ton of 335s out there. There are fewer M3s. And so when you have that M3, because there are fewer out there, you can kind of demand a little bit higher price point on the resale side. So if you're going through frames on a regular basis, that's something to consider. But make no mistake, I don't think the difference between winning and losing a race is gonna boil down to you purchasing the S-Works frame versus the Pro frame. I mean, just look at Russell Finsterwald last week at Big Sugar Gravel. He was on the Pro frame and he absolutely crushed it. The second question that I'm often asked is, what's the biggest tire that you've run on the Crux with a double chainring? On paper, the biggest tire that I've run is a 43mm Gravel King SS on the Zip 303Ss, and I believe those wheels have a 23mm internal width. If you're running Sram like me, you may find that the limiter on tire clearance is not the frame itself, but it's actually the battery on the front derailleur. It's also worth noting that the internal width of your wheel is going to play a large role in just how wide your tire is. On the NV45s with a 25mm internal width, these 42mm S-Works Pathfinder tires blow up to a 46mm tire, which is probably the largest tire that I've run on the Crux. And that's something to consider when you're looking at wheel and tire combos for your perfect do-it-all setup. I'm often asked which other fast gravel bikes I like and why I didn't just ride the Aethos as a gravel bike. And I'll address the Aethos question first. The Aethos for me, and I'm 185, 190 pounds, it always just felt a little bit brittle to me. It didn't feel like it could take a beating quite like the Crux or even the Tarmac. And for that reason, I never really felt comfortable riding it off-road. Sure, maybe super light gravel, I could see it working, but anything outside of that, the bike just feels way too brittle to me, and I felt like it was gonna break. So that's why I never even tried the Aethos in gravel. Whenever I'm asked about which other gravel bikes I would consider, I think you have to understand that when I offer an opinion, it's coming from the perspective of someone who wants a fast gravel bike. So with that in mind, I suppose I would consider the Willier Rave SLR, maybe the Trek Checkpoint, maybe the Aspero 5, the Santa Cruz Stigmata, the 3T Exploro looks pretty cool in the regular and the Race Max version. It's gotta be something that's not gonna feel slow or sluggish on the road if it's really gonna be a win for my needs. The other bike that I would consider is the BMC Kaius. And if you guys are familiar with Ben Delaney, he did a really cool review on that bike, and I think he even raced it at BWR Cedar City a couple weeks back. So I'll link his video down below. That's another one that really intrigues me. It's all kind of that aero integrated gravel bike look that I'm not really sure if that has a place in the gravel world to be totally aero and integrated, but hey, it's kind of cool. They're doing something different. And last, I'll answer one question that nobody actually asked me, but I just thought I'd share my opinion on the new Diverge STR because I think it's a really cool bike in the right setting. And I'm still trying to figure out what that right setting is. See, I kind of look at a bike landscape like this. You have a road bike on one end, and you have a mountain bike on the other end. And then in the middle, you have a gravel bike. And some would argue that you really don't even need that middle gravel bike, that you can do everything on a road bike and a mountain bike. So now with the STR, we have kind of this super narrow focused bike that is somewhere between a gravel bike and a mountain bike. And that's a very interesting space in my opinion. Again, coming from a fast gravel bike perspective, this one just feels a little bit too niche. And I don't know, maybe the same person who wants the STR would say that the Crux is a little bit too niche, but for whatever reason, this one just kind of misses the mark for me. And I don't mean to throw shade on anybody who's really excited about the STR. I think if you've got a use for it, man, go crush it and have fun. I'm sure it's an absolute blast of a bike. At this point, I feel like I've extensively covered my Crux build, the evolution of the bike, why I like it, why I think it's a fantastic do-it-all bike. If you have any specific questions, drop them in the comments below or shoot me a message on Instagram. In the next few videos, we're gonna talk about Sram versus Shimano. Somebody asked me the other day, if I were building a brand new bike today, would I build it up with Sram or Shimano? And I think my answer is a little bit different than it would have been 6 months ago. In a couple weeks, we'll hit the 2-year mark of owning the Diesel Sprinter 4x4. So I wanna talk about some of the things I wish I had known before I bought that van. And I might also dabble in a little bit of camera stuff, specifically the Sony FX30. Anyways, have a great Halloween. If you're still looking for a costume, just throw on a black shirt and say that you're me. Until next time.